And phone.
What are you doing here, John?
She has a head.
John, what are you doing?
Cover.
John, stop this.
You that visual.
A man walks into a hospital emergency room, pulls a gun, and forces two armed police officers to handcuff themselves. That's not the twist. That's minute 1 of what I'm about to show you. The woman he's rescuing isn't a hostage. She's his wife. And the officers he just disarmed? They were guarding her because, as far as the entire justice system is concerned, she's a convicted murderer. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how a university professor, a man who grades essays for a living, ended up here. And more importantly, you're going to find out whether the woman he's risking everything for actually did it. Let's rewind. 3 years before that hospital standoff, Lara Brennan was sentenced for the murder of her boss, beaten to death in a parking lot after an argument at work. The case looked closed before it even opened. Her fingerprints were on the weapon. The victim's blood was on her coat. A co-worker saw her leaving the scene. On paper, there is no cleaner conviction in the world. Her husband, John, never believed a word of it, and he holds on to one detail that the courts never seem to care about. On the night of the murder, Lara came home and sat through a completely ordinary family dinner. No panic, no guilt, nothing. John's logic is simple, and it will come back 3 separate times before this story is over. You don't beat someone to death and then pass the potatoes an hour later. That's not what guilt looks like. Keep that dinner in your head. It matters later. We also meet Luke, the son of John and Lara, who watched his mother get arrested as a small child and has spent years getting teased about it at school. Now every prison visit is the same. Lara's face lights up the second she sees him, and Luke just shuts down. 2 strangers at a table. It's one of the quieter, sadder details in the whole film, because Lara isn't just fighting to get out of prison. She's fighting to get her son back too, and she's losing that fight in real time, visit after visit. Every single time John visits, Lara asks him the same 2 questions. Did he ever find the woman she bumped into outside work that night? And did he ever find the button that popped off her coat during that collision? John never has an answer. He just tells her the lawyer's working another appeal. Neither of them actually believes that anymore. The film doesn't waste time showing you how hopeless the legal route is. Appeal denied. John pushes for the Supreme Court, and the lawyer has to explain that the Supreme Court almost never touches cases like this. Then the lawyer says something that guts John completely. Stop treating her like your wife, and start treating her like a suspect, because that's all the evidence sees. John refuses. He knows her. But the lawyer's response is the whole theme of the movie in one sentence. It doesn't matter what either of them believes. Only the evidence counts. When John comes back to deliver the bad news, Lara doesn't even need him to say it out loud. She sees it on his face and walks out without a word. He's completely out of legal moves. And then it gets worse. One night, mid-case file, he gets a call that Lara has tried to take her own life. He races to the hospital, isn't even allowed in because she's a prisoner, and a sympathetic doctor sneaks him a few minutes at her bedside. That's the moment. Standing over her, John decides the system isn't going to save her. He is, no matter what it costs. This is where the movie hands you its own structure, and it's worth paying attention to, because everything from here forward is John checking these 3 boxes off one at a time. John tracks down Damon Pennington, a legendary multiple-time prison escapee who was only ever caught because he turned himself in. Damon lays out exactly what it takes. 1. Total knowledge of the target, the layout, the routines, the exact moment the system slips. 2. A real exit plan, not just out of the building but out of the country, because cities like Pittsburgh are built to track people fast, and public transit is a trap. 3. Money. Real money, because everything else falls apart without it. Before he even walks away, Damon lifts a few bills straight out of John's wallet, just to prove how easily this can all slip through your fingers if you're careless. Keep those 3 rules in mind. We're going to check them off one by one, and every single time John completes one, it's going to cost him something. John's visits stop being visits and start being surveillance. He memorizes camera angles, guard shift changes, delivery schedules. He puts his house on the market to fund the plan. Then he needs forged passports. And this is where a professor with 0 criminal connections gets a brutal education. A street dealer he approaches assumes he's an undercover cop. When he finally gets a lead, it's a trap. 2 men jump him behind a bar, beat him, and take every dollar he brought. That's rule 1 being paid for in blood. His mother patches him up the next morning and asks gently how long he plans to keep fighting for someone the entire world has already decided is guilty. Luke asks if his dad at least fought back. John admits he didn't. Luke just shrugs, and somehow that small moment of loyalty is worth more to John than the beating cost him. Eventually, a forger, deaf, careful, no nonsense, agrees to make him documents, with one hard rule: if John is ever late to a meet, walk away immediately. Sure enough, at their next handoff under a bridge, John waits past the deadline while a suspicious car crawls by and stares him down. He assumes the worst. Turns out the car really was a cop, and if John hadn't stuck around past the warning, both of them would have been caught. The deal goes through anyway, but notice the pattern already. Every step forward comes within inches of blowing the whole plan. Next, John teaches himself to make a bump key, smuggles it into the prison inside his own tray, and tests it on a locked door during visiting hours. It snaps off inside the lock. The whole visiting room gets sealed and searched. He survives only because the guard in charge asks him one quiet, devastating question.
You might want to think about what's going to happen to your kids if both their parents end up in prison.
And lets him go anyway. John throws up the second he's outside, and unnoticed in the background, Detective Quinn, the original investigator on Lara's case, starts watching him a little too closely. At a playground, Luke shares a cookie with a little girl, the first real sign of the old Luke coming back. Her mother, Nicole, invites the family to a birthday party, assuming John's wife is out of the picture. When he tells her the truth, that his wife is in prison, the conversation dies instantly. It feels like a small, awkward, throwaway scene. It is not. Hold on to Nicole's name. It's going to become the single biggest threat to the entire escape plan later, and right now you have no idea why. In a medical transport van that moves Lara's diabetes test results in and out of the prison, John breaks into it during a 90-second window, photographs her full medical file, and now has exactly what he needs to fake a medical emergency. He rushes to tell Lara how close they are, and instead learns Lara is being transferred to a state prison in 3 days. The clock John didn't know was running just started, and it's already almost out of time. Desperate for cash, he actually drives to a bank with a gun in his hand and sits in the parking lot, trying to talk himself into robbing it. He can't. He nearly hits a mother and child backing out of the lot in a panic, a moment that should tell you exactly how far outside himself he's drifted, and he still hasn't hit bottom yet. During his next visit, distracted and clearly hiding something, John accidentally makes Lara believe he's given up on her. She lashes out and finally asks the question that's been sitting under everything for 3 years. Why has he never once asked if she actually did it? For a second, it plays like a confession. It isn't. It's Lara trying to push him away because she can't bear to keep hoping. This is anchor detail number 2. Remember the dinner from the opening? Here it gets flipped. The same silence that once proved her innocence to John now almost convinces her that he's stopped believing in her too. Out of money and out of time, John crosses a line he can't walk back from. He robs a drug supplier at gunpoint, fires a warning shot, threatens to burn the place down, and when the man bolts upstairs screaming that his kids are up there, John follows anyway, using him as a shield. Gunfire. The supplier is dead. John gets the cash, drags the wounded dealer to the car, and in his panic to flee, smashes his own taillight on a row of trash cans, leaving behind the one piece of evidence that's going to bring the FBI straight to him. The dealer dies before they reach a hospital. John leaves the body at a bus stop and drives into the dark, alone with what he's just become. That night, his father finds a stack of airline tickets hidden in his son's things. He says nothing about it out loud. He just pulls John into a long, silent hug the next morning. Neither of them has to say what's coming. John tears down his entire wall of maps and notes, drives to the medical lab, cuts the lines, and swaps Lara's real test results for fake ones during the transport run. Rule 2 and Rule 3 are both, finally, complete. He drops Luke off, he thinks, at Nicole's house for the birthday party, and moves to the final phase. At the exact same time, FBI agent Nabuli finally traces that shattered taillight back to Lara's name in the system and rushes to the Brennan house, only to find it stripped bare, nothing left but torn scraps of paper on an empty wall. The falsified lab results work exactly as planned. A doctor, convinced Lara is having a genuine medical emergency, orders her transferred by ambulance. John follows behind it. Nabuli, several steps behind the whole time, races to the same hospital. And this is where we came in. John pulls his gun in the ER, forces the guards to cuff themselves, and hands Lara a phone so she can hear their son's voice before what happens next. It's the only way he can get her to actually go through with it. A nurse recognizes him. Security is called. They reroute through a service elevator and run straight into Nabuli, who can only watch as the doors close between them. Out on the street, thousands of Pittsburgh Penguins fans give them exactly the cover they need to disappear into a subway crowd. Nabuli spots them at the last possible second and locks down the whole line, but John pulls the emergency brake first, slips out a side exit, and reaches a getaway car he stashed the day before. He starts a timer for 35 minutes, the exact window Damon told him they'd have before the trail goes cold. Here's where Nicole's name from earlier finally matters. John learns Luke's party isn't at Nicole's house like he planned around. It's at the zoo. With the countdown draining and every second now worth a year in prison, John has to choose. Risk the entire escape to get Luke, or leave the state without him. For one terrible moment, he chooses the highway. Lara doesn't accept that answer. She tries to throw herself out of the moving car rather than abandon their son, and John barely grabs her in time as the car spins across the highway. They walk away unhurt. The silence afterward says everything. John turns the car around. They're going back. He gets to Luke. The family is finally, fully together. And if this were a lesser script, that reunion would be the ending. It isn't. There's still one thing this movie hasn't told you yet. John hears on the radio that the escape has already gone national, and instead of panicking, he does the opposite of what anyone would expect. He drives straight toward a train station crawling with checkpoints. There, he picks up a stranded elderly couple and gives them a ride, and with 2 extra grandparents in the back seat, the car looks like nothing more than a family road trip. They pass through checkpoint after checkpoint without a second glance. At the FBI office, agents lean hard on John's relatives. His father knows more than he lets on and gives up nothing. Eventually, the family reaches Toronto, where Lara, steady, confident, hands over the forged passports herself, and because their photos haven't reached every checkpoint yet, they slip through. At the very same moment, agents finally chase down a clue pointing toward the Middle East. It's a decoy John planted on purpose. While the FBI burns time on a trail that leads nowhere, the Brennan family boards a flight and disappears out of the country for good. Somewhere over open water, Luke leans over and kisses his mother on the forehead, the first real affection he's shown her in years. For John, this is the moment every risk, every bruise, every sleepless night was supposed to lead to. If the movie ended here, it would be a satisfying, earned ending. It doesn't end here. Back in Pittsburgh, Detective Quinn, the man who built the original case, goes back to the scene of the crime one more time. And for the first time in 3 years, he actually looks at it from Lara's side of the story instead of the prosecution's. What he pieces together is this. On the night of the murder, a desperate young addict stole the victim's purse and struck her fatally with a fire extinguisher. Fleeing the scene, that addict crashed straight into Lara's car in a panic. Lara, having no idea a murder had just happened feet away, simply moved the fallen fire extinguisher out of the road and drove off. A coworker arriving moments later saw only her car leaving, and that was enough to convict her. Remember that dinner from the very beginning of this story? Now you know why she could sit through it without a flicker of guilt. She had none to feel. Quinn lifts a drain grate near the scene, searching for the missing coat button Lara has been asking John to find for 3 years. The same detail she kept bringing up visit after visit, the one loose thread nobody in the justice system ever bothered to pull. He finds nothing, covers the drain, and walks away. The camera lingers, and there it is, the button, sitting right there the whole time, slipping out of reach and disappearing beneath the water. Lara was innocent. She was always innocent. And the one piece of proof that could have ended this entire nightmare 3 years earlier is now gone forever, lost in the same system that put her away in the first place. So what do you think about this movie? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing movie stories. See you in the next one.